Picnic Placemat by Share Our World.
Today we are making a picnic placemat. It's so that when you go on a picnic or go to a public place, you don't have to wipe off the table or worry about dust or any of that, because you'll have your silverware and your placemat. So all in one piece. So this is what we need. We need two 6 by 9 inch rectangles. We need a 13 by 18 inch, two 13 by 18 inch rectangles. I prefer to match cut them so I know they're going to be exactly the same, but as long as you have them the right size, it doesn't matter that much. We also need 4 nickels for our weights, and we need 4 squares that are 2 by 4. We're going to deal with our squares first. We are going to fold them in half. It doesn't matter how you sew these because these will be on the inside, you'll never see them. This is a great way to use up some scraps that you have that you don't know that you've never figured out what you're going to do with. And to do this, we are just going to sew at the 1/4 inch, fold it in half. That's it. As you can see, I'm sewing from the fold towards the open part and then down, just because I'm making it a pouch. I'm not going to turn these right side out or anything. These just fit a nickel just like that. And that is what they're for, is to keep our weights on the edge at the corners of our placemat. So we're going to set these with the nickel. We're going to put a nickel into each one. And we're going to set these aside. The reason why I'm using nickels is because nickels wash really well and they are less expensive than washers. The next part of our project is going to be the silverware. The silverware holder. And this may seem a little bit tricky, but isn't really tricky. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to take each individual 9 by 6, we're going to fold it the hot dog direction, and we are going to sew along the bottom of it. So I folded it right sides together. And we're going to just sew along the bottom of it right at the edge of my presser foot. So now I have two envelopes essentially sewn right just at the bottom and no more. Then I'm going to open these up. And I'm going to open this one up like this. And I am going to put them right sides together. Just like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this. And I'm going to mark this at 3 inches down, just like this. And then 3 inches along the top, just like this. And then I am going to connect my marks. Just like this. If this is not exactly perfect, it's okay. Let's see if you can see that. Oh, probably you can. Here, let me bring it up a little bit closer. See, I've got now a diagonal mark, 3 inches by 3 inches. And I am going to just put a couple little clips so my fabric doesn't move around when I sew it, because now I am going to take this line to my sewing machine and I am going to sew straight down the line that I just made. Now I have that line sewn straight down and I'm going to trim it off So I'm trimming off that little triangle. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this top part closed. Now I have a line sewn here, and I've sewn along my line that I drew. And I am going to cut this corner off because I like my corners to be nice and sharp. Now I'm going to turn this whole thing right side out. So what we have here is a line. What we made was a very tidy diagonal line. We're going to turn this right side out. We're going to leave this one wrong side out, and we are going to tuck those together nice and tidy. Now you are going to go over to your ironing board, and you are going to iron this closed, and this is what it will look like. I'll put an index card in here so you can see what we've done. We have, when this is folded over, I have a diagonal, I have a flat, put my index card in here, you'll see I have a diagonal line, and this is finished at the bottom, and these are tucked together neatly. Now that I have this ironed, I am going to top stitch it right along just this top edge. And kind of close to the seam. All the way down that diagonal cut. Now we have our silverware pouch all ready to go. We've top stitched the top, it's folded over, it's sewn at the bottom so that the silverware don't fall out. We have our nickel pouches, and now we are going to deal with our actual placemat fabric. Now I am not going to put any batting or anything in my placemat just because I don't want to make this bulky to carry around. If I were going to just make placemats, I probably would put Pellon or bat or something between them, but the point of this is that I want to be able to carry it around easily, so I'm not going to put anything between it. The first thing we're going to do is deal with our nickel pouches. The nickel pouches go in each corner, and it's raw edge to raw edge, just like this. Do you notice I have not done anything to my nickel pouch? I haven't turned it right side out or anything, and I'm going to pin my nickel back, just like that, so the nickel stays in place when I sew it. I'm going to do that with all four corners. Here's my next corner. Then I'm going to turn this over because I want my placemat to be right sides together. Now I have to decide which direction that looks right side up to me, and for this particular purpose I think my placemat looks right side up like this, and I want my pouch to open up onto the left hand side just like this. I diagonal cut at the top so I can see my silverware. What I need to do is I'm going to lay it out and look at it. This is how I want it, so I am going to fold this in and lay it on the front. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the back over the top of the front. And if you're worried that you're not going to be able to catch all of these pieces of the pouch, just do a basting stitch here, just like this. I haven't, because I iron it really good, I haven't found that I have a problem with that. But if you're worried about it, just do a basting stitch just like that, so it's already closed before you put it between everything. It just makes it a teensy bit easier. Now I'm lining these up very well, and I'm going to use clips. The first thing I'm clipping on, if you notice, is my silverware pouch. There's my silverware pouch. Now I am lining up the rest of the edges. And I'm going to make sure I clip my coin envelopes at the edge on both sides, just so I have them, but we're going to sew it with the coin envelopes up so we can see them. Now that I've clipped this all the way around, I'm going to bring it over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew just a little bit past that 1/4 inch mark. Because everything has been basted on that 1/4 inch mark, I'm just going to sew probably at maybe an 1/8 of an inch past my presser foot. As you can see, as I come to that corner, I'm really careful of that nickel, and I'm sewing it in on both sides. I'm going to pivot, and I'm pushing that nickel back just a little bit so that I don't have to, so that I'm not sewing over the top of it. That would be pretty tragic for my sewing needle. But I'm being careful of it. Sewing all the way down to the end. And as you can see, I can see my nickel pouches. The point of having the nickel pouches is so it's a little bit weighted. Now I'm coming up onto my silverware envelope. It's on the inside right there. I just got to it. See where my clips are. I'm sewing across it. And I'm coming to the corner, and remember to put your needle down when you get to the corner. Making sure my nickel is out of the way, taking my pin out. Now the trick for this is we also have to have an opening. So I'm just going to make an opening right here, and I am going to make a minute opening, maybe an inch, because this isn't very thick, and so that thickness will be, so I will be able to get all of it through there. I'm going to come across, and I'm back to where I started. I'm sewing I'm back stitching. Now we're going to clip the corners, because if you don't clip corners, things aren't quite as tidy on the outside. There, I'm going to snip my corner. The reason why I'm using nickels is because nickels wash. Plus they're less expensive than washers, but more importantly, you can wash and dry a nickel because they are stable. The metal on a nickel doesn't oxidize or anything. It won't make it black. They're not magnetic. Nickels are just a pretty inert. Nickels are just pretty inert. I'm gonna stick my thumb in my little opening. I'm going to pinch that corner, and I'm going to bring it out. And as you can see, even though that opening is really little, it's not a problem to bring all this fabric through because I don't have a lot of extra fabric. Now we're gonna get this corner out. And you can make a bigger opening. I just never do. I would rather have less to stitch than more. Here comes my next corner. There we have it. I have 2 corners out, now I have 2 corners to go. Gonna pop this corner out. And as I get to it, I can tell I've gotten to my silverware pocket, but that isn't a big deal to get to. You still have plenty of room in this little teensy hole to get all of that fabric through. Fabric is squishy. It doesn't mind being squished around. And there we have that whole thing through that little teensy opening. I have my pocket that looks really good. Now I am popping my corners out. And if you want to, you can stick a pencil or something in to do corners. I have a tendency to use a needle and pull my corners out, but I know lots of people who push their corners out with a turner. We need to go take this back to the ironing board and give ourselves a good iron up. At this point, my tie is going to be top stitched onto my project. I'm going to pin it right next to the edge in the center of the side opposite my silverware envelope. There's my silverware envelope, there's my tie. And I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to start, the top stitch does a couple things, and I want you to observe that I'm top stitching very close to the edge. I'm going to go backwards once through that tie, but I am top stitching very close to the edge. And the reason why I'm top stitching very close to the edge is you have to remember I have nickels in the edge of my, on the corners of my placemat, and I don't want those nickels to get underneath my presser foot. So as I come up to the nickels, I'm going to push them far back into their envelope. And you also notice I am not top stitching around my silverware envelope. I'm just top stitching across the front of it. I'm going to get to the edge. I've pushed my nickel into the inside corner of my. Now at this point, I have already sewn across my opening. If you iron this really well, you're not going to be able to tell where your opening is, and top stitching closes this up. So I no longer have an opening at all in this. And there we have it. Now I'm going to put silverware in my silverware envelope, and as you can see, it's tall enough to protect your silverware. If you would like the blade to be down, it's not going to hurt it any. Then I'm going to fold this into my placemat and roll my placemat up around it. Then I have my tie. Ties like this. And you have a placemat that has its silverware that you can just take to any park, any cafeteria that will make you, so you will know that you have a clean, cute place to eat. Thank you for watching my picnic placemat tutorial by Share Our World.